Low drama company.
No drama company.
No drama, not just low.
No drama company. She took me to some chole bhature sit down place.
I'm thrilled and overjoyed to be back here in this series of masterclasses, sitting down with maestros, as I say. Today I'm overjoyed to be joined with Abhiraj, who is co-founder and CEO of Urban Company, and Abhinav, a partner at Axel, who's been part of the building of Urban Company as a watcher, as a backer, if I may say so, and someone who has a lens to offer here to look at things, how did it shape, and why. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay. I've been a user of Abhiraj for over the years, watched things with joy, sometimes in frustration, but overall, I think overwhelming sense of something getting built. And I've always been curious to learn how did it happen. So I'm actually very thrilled. Abhiraj, let's start from the start. I mean, if you could give us a sense of the origin story of Urban Company, before it was called Urban Company, it would be a great start.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Urban Company started actually as UrbanClap, and the origin story is that three founders, myself, Varun, and Raghav, we were thinking about an idea and a space that could create large-scale impact and large-scale positive impact for India, and a problem statement that was, very challenging, very broken, and could keep us busy for many years, if not decades. Through, several deep introspective conversations and some reflections on our own pain points, we realized that the space of services is completely unorganized, completely fragmented, untouched by technology, and the way consumers experience services at home hasn't changed for many decades. That got us intrigued, and we started spending a lot of time both with consumers and with service professionals. The consumer pain point was always clear and apparent because we ourselves were consumers,
Yes.
so we could empathize with that pain point. But when we started spending time with service professionals, we realized that there was an equally large pain point for them, which was, low incomes, no ability to upskill and differentiate yourself, no ability to offer standardized services and solutions, and not because they didn't want to, because they didn't have the ability to and the platform to. So deeply unsolved category for both consumers and service professionals, deeply unorganized, fragmented, untouched by technology. I mean, some would argue, these are as good as can be for a marketplace business. But the final tipping point was that we, in that process of 2-3 months of conversations, we just fell in love with this category.
Wow.
We fell in love with the idea, and we said that, this is going to happen, right? It is inevitable that this will change. We can't see a future where this remains the way it is. It is definitely going to change. Somebody is going to change this category, and that somebody should be us.
Sounds like a great intersection. If I can bring you in, Abhinav, before we jump back to his origin story, what is your earliest memory of UrbanClap, Urban Company? Can you talk a little bit about your walk?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and firstly, very good to be talking about this. My first memory is actually not speaking to Abhiraj. My first memory is speaking to, Abhiraj's co-founder, Varun Khaitan. And I had, as Axel, we have this habit of creating investment thesis areas or roadmaps. We call it prepared minds. And, this was part of a investment thesis we were looking at that point in time. And interestingly, at that point in time, there were like 40 odd businesses that were trying to do just this. And through some connect in both Abhiraj and Varun are from IIT Kanpur. Through one of my connects, the connect knew Varun and not Abhiraj actually. And I got connected to Varun, and I remember very distinctly actually even today, I had just flown to the US the very day, and the call was set up as soon as I was landing. And this was very early in the morning, and while speaking to Varun, I almost stood up because he was so well prepared about like the work they had done, at least the thought process. And this is with a background that, you know, I've spent some time in venture, you know, then we invested. And so there is some semblance of what's the median understanding of businesses for a typical founder one would meet. And here there was a person who was way above that median. And while I was very sure about that we have done some work in this space, he knew more about that space than we had done work on. So which was very good, because it was not just like us pushing Varun, it was Varun pushing us as well. And so that memory is pretty starkly etched in my head over time. As things would happen, you know, fast forward 2-3 months in, we intersected UrbanClap at that time again, and actually met Abhiraj for the first time at that point in time. And we were interested. We spoke to Abhiraj and Varun and Raghav also. We got to know all three of them. I spoke to all three of them. And the thought in my mind was like, it's not just Varun, it's like all three of them are pretty good. That's like a trio, which is very, very good. And the other memory I have from that instance is we were interested in this space, and obviously the team was based in New Delhi at that time, not Gurgaon. And we were interested and we wanted to talk to them, and I told Abhiraj that, you know, hey, let's organize like a video conference with the partners. At that time there was no Zoom, so there was, I don't know what video conference we used. We used maybe Skype or something, so we would video conference in. And Abhiraj said, no, we will come over and present. We want to do it in person. And I thought, like, you know, we are nearly there, but, you know, I like this tendency sort of to actually make it successful in the founding team, right? Like, it's okay, we will come, we will present, we will talk to you face to face. I'm sure there are questions which some people in the team will have. We will address those. So they came, they presented, and yeah, and we liked it. As a matter of fact, you know, there's another story. Sort of, we after that meeting, I went to Delhi, and you know, just to understand, at that point in time, we would do technical diligence and so on. So, like, you know, this is the time when VCs were like truly like early days of VCs.
Truly VCs.
Early days of VCs. And so, you know, wanted to understand with Raghav, like, what the technology architecture is and what the roadmap is and how does the product look and so on. And I landed and sort of we went to, you know, the office was like a small shack in Bikaji Kamar place, which was a very, very small place. Almost only 3 or 4 people could sit in that room. And when I went in, so we tried to squeeze in, we couldn't, because there was only place for 3 people or 4 people. There was one intern as well, if I remember. So 3 people and an intern, 3 founders and an intern. And so Abhiraj said, why don't we go to a shop nearby? I thought we go to some, you know, like a fancy, you know, in those days, CCD or Costa Coffee, something like that. He took me to some chole bhature sit down place. And at a chole bhature sit down place, chole kulcha sit down place. We walked through the you know, how UrbanClap will shape up going forward. Like the future of UrbanClap was almost told at this chole kulcha place, and the architecture was discussed. And at that point in time, you know, mind you, I mean, these, like, there were 3 people and an intern, right? No real funding there. They actually pushed me to tell me why I am so interested in the business, instead of like telling, you know, hey, this is a cool company. So they had that kind of self-respect and confidence in what they have done, that they could at least push the other person to say, you know, why are you so keen about this? Which was very, very, like, that's another edge memory in that. And yeah, post that we sort of, we decided to partner, and here we are.
Wow, you make me hungry for more insights. Chole bhature another time. Abhiraj, if I could come back to you, this is fascinating, right? So if we, for the first set of, you know, insights, let's focus on the so proverbial product market fit.
Sure.
And I understand there were pivotal successes and failures, and, you know, in that stage for you. Can you walk us through that? And Abhinav, feel free to jump in.
Yeah. I think it took us a while to get the early product market fit. I would say about 1.5 to 2 years.
Okay.
So we launched as a technology only marketplace, broadly doing lead generation in maybe like 30, 40, 50 service categories. So very broad, very asset light, very light touch. And our view of the world when we had launched was that a lot can happen with just technology. For about a year, we just unquestionably scaled this model, and it did scale because it's easy to scale an asset light model. So the plain vanilla metrics were scaling, but deep down the consumer experience and the experience for service professionals was not scaling and improving. So about a year in, we realized that this is not what product market fit looks like or feels like. So we picked up the beauty category. This category is very important for our core consumers, busy women, pressed for time, young mothers, don't have the time to step out of the home and go to a salon. So can the salon come to their home? And we decided that let's go deep into this category and let's understand the building blocks of a service business. So far, we are seeing ourselves and who we are as a technology company, but the heart of the company is services. So unless we understand the building blocks of a service company, we will never be able to delight users.
Yeah.
That took us a good 6 to 9 months because we now had to actually train service professionals, so we had to understand how to train them. None of us come from the beauty industry, so we had to find people in our network who came from the beauty industry, bring them on board, figure out training, figure out what are the right set of products to use, what are the right set of tools, SOPs. And the good thing we did was we did this all ourselves. We didn't sort of outsource it to a small team. We were involved in figuring out every single SOP, in figuring out every single product. We went to the markets to buy the right set of products and tools. So it took us 6 to 9 months to get that playbook for beauty right, which I would call a full stack playbook in beauty. Interestingly, at the end of that, now we are in 2016. So we launched in November 2014. First year is just, technology only lead generation marketplace, very broad based, 40, 50 categories. End of year one, around November, December of 2015, we decided to pick one category, beauty, and go deep. And by the second half of 2016, we started seeing very, very good traction in that category. So organic word of mouth was strong, consumer retention was great. On the supply side, we now started seeing beauticians landing up in our office on their own in Gurgaon and saying that, I have heard that the earnings in this company are great. There's a lot of flexibility. I want to join. So what was a theoretical concept for us, that service professionals will join via word of mouth, became real. And that's when and almost all our brand, even though we were present in 40, 50 different services, our consumer brand started becoming a beauty services brand. That's when we took a step back and said, this is what product market fit actually looks like. It is a smiling curve on the supply side and the consumer side on the cohorts. It is a well-retained user. It is organic word of mouth driving consumption. And it is a business that you actually feel good and proud of building.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say that's the point at which we said, okay, this is the kernel of product market fit in our business that we need to scale across other categories.
Just a quick one, Abhiraj, and feel free to jump in, Abhinav. Why did you pick this category? And the reason I'm asking is a lot of time decisions are made based on data or anecdotes.
Yes.
So, but when we talk of entrepreneurs, we talk about this entrepreneurial gut feeling. So can you take us through that process? Why did you zero in on beauty?
Yes. So, home services, one of the challenges in home services is that it is a frequency starved business.
Okay.
Home services are typically anecdotal in nature. AC once a year. Home cleaning maybe 2-3 times a year. Painting once in 5 years. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters maybe once every other month. Beauty is one of the few categories which has a regimented periodic frequency that the woman or even the man of the house needs that service every month or once in 6 weeks. So we wanted to attack a service which had frequency so that we don't have to keep reacquiring our users, that truly mattered to our most critical TG. And who was our most critical TG? Our most critical TG when we started, our most critical consumer was the busy moms. So usually service decisions in a house are taken by the woman of the house. And if you have to be very sharp about our TG, I would say working mothers was our first TG that was where we were a very good fit. You have to take care of your home, your kids, the workplace, so many things. It's a phase in life for about 8, 10, 15 years where you're just juggling, right? And so if there's a solution that makes your life easier, more convenient, you latch on to it. So we realized that beauty services is that solution, at home is that solution for that very sharp TG, which is working mothers. Now, working mothers is in India a small TG. So over time you expand, right? You expand towards all working women, you expand towards all mothers, you expand towards all women, then you start expanding towards men. Expansion is easy, but having the sharpness of the early TG, I think, is important.
And is there any particular test bed where did you started from? Anything?
Gurgaon.
Yeah.
In fact, not even all of Gurgaon. In a very, very limited part of Gurgaon. When we launched this in about, I'd say about half of Gurgaon.
Okay.
Yes. And why? Because our marketplace is unique in to some extent in the sense that it is a hyper-local marketplace, which means that the vicinity within which a beautician or a plumber or a cleaner will travel is no more than a few kilometers. And consequently, even a city like Delhi NCR has to be broken up into, and we break up into about 37 hypermarkets.
Oh, okay.
And in each hypermarket, you need to create the density of supply and demand. So therefore, when you're starting out, you actually want to start narrow in a limited geography and drive density there versus start too broad.
Oh, okay. Abhinav, before now we go back to Abhiraj and discuss. Hey, I love how it's rhyming, Abhinav and Abhiraj.
That's why the investment. Core thesis.
Now we know the real reason.
Yeah, that's okay.
So before we get back to scaling from
Yeah.
where anything in particular in the war rooms during that 0 to 1 and beyond stage that jumps at you?
Yeah. Actually, interesting that you asked that question. For the board, I mean, the scene was very different. There was no war room, firstly. In 2015 is when, we raised the first money. I think we raised 3 rounds in 2015.
Yeah, Series
A and Series B, right? And this is that market. 2015 is that market where, like, a lot of investments were happening. The good thing about the team was, obviously, ability to attract resources. So a lot of high quality people were joining. And these people would not join other companies, and they were able to attract those people. Number 2, we have always been very frugal. There's this sense of value of money and not throwing money at problems, but actually solving problems. And that's there from like day zero. And today, like even now, I think they've been pushed back on, like, why don't we throw money at it? Like, right? Almost to a point where, like, hey, you have money, why don't you throw at it? And there's this almost like a DNA, and these things come top down, that, hey, there's a way we think, we operate, and this is how we operate, right? So that was there. So we had money in the bank, but we were not spending. Very frugal about things. And there's always this sense of, I mean, the Abhiraj and Varun and Raghav, there's always this sense of calm in the boardroom that, hey, there are these things. See, the lead generation business which we had was actually doing fine. It wasn't like we weren't not like it was bad business. I mean, we were able to scale it to a certain extent, and that revenue from that business is growing, and it was almost like a reflection into that business saying, hey, we need to change the model to get better. And this is not like a sustainable long-term business, so we need to bite the bullet now, change the business, and focus our energies there. So it was almost a very systematic way of doing it. I don't know how they did it, but to the board, it was not. We didn't get to know the difficulty with which this decision would have been taken or the chaos which was going underneath. It was almost like, hey, we realize we need to do this, so we are doing this, and this is better because of ABC, right? So he was able to sort of take out the noise and all the confusion which might have been there, and I'm sure there would have been there, and surface to the board a real clarity as to why that decision was taken. And the board needs to not fear about like the future of the company. We are doing fine. And I think that sense even prevails today. Like from then, I think they were like 8 months, 9 months into the business, and which is very, very mature of a founding team to do at that point in time, that we're going to change, we're going to do this. And there was no, hey, this is not working, and like, it wasn't like this. It was like, this is working, this is what we're going to focus on.
Low drama company.
No drama company.
No drama, not just low.
No drama company. No drama company at all. Right, and so that's very nice to be. Okay, you know what you're doing. That's great.
It's a colorful ecosystem.
That's good. Like yeah.
But Abhiraj, this is really good and reassuring to hear. Let's jump to the scaling part of it, and then the keywords that come to my mind are everything from change to chaos to complexity and so on. Can you spend few minutes on the point where you started scaling the business? Also handpick your favorite mistakes, if at all there are, because I think there will be a lot to learn from them as you scale, and break it down in phases as you like.
Sure. So, so I'll take off from where we left. So 2016 towards the end, we started seeing traction in the beauty services business. We then decided that we will now take this model, which is a full stack controlled marketplace model, and apply it to other categories.
Okay.
Cleaning, AC and appliance repair, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, massage and spa, etc. And wherever we cannot apply it, we will continue the lead generation business. So that we then started a 2-year phase of extrapolating the full stack controlled marketplace model to about 5-6 more categories.
Okay.
And much of, I would say, 2017 and some part of 2018 was spent in that journey. What would be the one mistake in the first 3.5-4 years? I think it took us a very long time, in hindsight, to realize that the full stack controlled marketplace business was the business to build. Okay. So starting from Salon in 2016, eventually when I took that decision and wrote to our board also in early 2018 that we are shutting the lead generation business down, it was about 2 years. First year going deep into Salon, then extrapolating it into other categories. And at the time when we made the decision to shut the lead generation business down, it was exactly 50% of our revenue.
Oh.
So it was still a difficult decision to make, but one that in hindsight could have been taken probably a year earlier. And if I were to go even deeper, right, in thinking why not, as a DNA, as a company, and there's pros and cons to this, we don't like very chaotic builds. We like structured builds. So if you see, like the journey to PMF has been a relatively structured set of interventions. Start in a way, then realize, then go deep in one category, then extrapolate it. Probably too long, actually. The challenge with this is that chaos can crunch things.
Yes.
Right, and sometimes trying to get to structure can also expand timelines. So these have been learnings. One learns, one improves, one recognizes their blind spots. But yes, it took us, I'd say finally in 2018, when we shut that lead generation business down, was when we became a company that knew what it was doing.
Yeah. And it was a hard decision, just to follow up on that. So at least from our vantage point, the business which we were shutting down or we were sunsetting, it was sizable. It was almost, as you said, like half the size. Just imagine like cutting half the business, right? It's hard. I think there's other thing which is not captured, and you should talk about it, Abhiraj, because that's like very important. See, the half the business is run by a lot of people internally, right? So, and that's I think there were 105 services we were running.
Yeah.
We shrunk it to 5.
Whoa.
Right? So 100 services would have like X number of people mapped to it, and we're saying, okay, 5. So how did we make that decision? Like, what did you do inside? We would love to understand.
No, I mean, we would just we've been very transparent as a company with all our decision making. Till date, every single monthly email that I write to the board and the investors, which is the monthly update that I send, has the entire company marked in CC. So everybody sees exactly what I'm sharing. It's been the case for the last 8 years, every single month, without exception. So we've always been transparent with our thought process, and we said, look, we've reached a point. We can either double dive on this business, focus, and grow, or we can continue to have our legs in 2 boards, and that's not going to help. I'd say the team was actually very supportive. Thankfully, the full stack control marketplace was growing very rapidly. So we were able to absorb the entire team into that business.
That's nice.
And we took this decision in Jan when it was 50-50. In the next 3 months, the full stack marketplace business already became 80% of revenue. So in 3 months, because it was growing really rapidly, right? So we also wanted to put more energy behind something that was truly growing. And I remember in June, July, writing another update email to the board, which was 6 months later, saying, now 95% of our revenues comes from our full stack business, the lead gen business's history. And I think to the board, it was like, oh, as an afterthought, कि अच्छा 5% बचा. It wasn't like it was a big deal of sorts. Like the transition was also fairly smooth.
Very smooth. Very smooth. So I think the things to highlight is, so from the starting point 15 to 18, a lot has happened for a founder who just started, like the team who's doing it for the first time. A lot of learning in starting somewhere, moving to a business, realizing the first thing is not working, focusing on the second, finding the second thing, focusing on that, building that out, and shutting this first business down, keeping everybody, almost all stakeholders happy, right, in all the phase. So it wasn't like a very easy thing to do. And actually, from my side or from the board, we never felt that they were not in control. It almost always was they were in control.
That sounds very encouraging. But picking the happiness stuff here and stakeholders, one of the things in platforms is also your suppliers, the service providers on your platform. And I think in many ways, companies like Urban Company also shaped that as an economy, right, that we are talking about today, whether you call it gig economy or whatever you call it. How is it keeping them happy through this journey? At least the ones that you truly want on your platform. Because it sounds very chaotic to me with such growth and all the complexity. Can you spend a couple of minutes on that?
Absolutely. Very happy to. So I'd say there are 4 key pillars to ensuring supply side happiness and long-term stickiness and retention. The first and most important is earnings.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make more money in life. That is why they are joining your marketplace. And you cannot be incrementally better than their offline equivalent. See, we are all companies that are moving an offline category online. You cannot be incrementally better than what they were making in the offline world. So at UC, for example, the average professional will see a 50 to 100% step jump immediately after joining the platform.
Okay.
So if the offline earnings in India are typically between, call it anywhere from 12 to 18, 20,000, the UC average will be around 30, 35,000 as a starting point.
Okay.
And for the ones who are more hardworking, for the ones who want to earn more, there's no upper ceiling. Why does this happen? This happens because we work directly with the individual service professionals who actually deliver the service. We don't work with small businesses, a middle layer. And services is fraught with a large middle layer of contractors, thekedars, shop owners, salon owners who keep most of the margin. and the end professional who delivers the service in the offline world gets a fraction of what the consumer pays. On our platform, they get 75 to 80% of what the consumer pays. And so the harder they work, the more money they make. And that's the first, I would say. And here now we've done like a bunch of documentation as well. We are perhaps one of the first and only companies globally to publish our partner earnings index and have it third party audited, which demonstrates, what our partners earn every month. And it's very healthy. The standard we want to keep to is living wages and not minimum wages. And living wages are typically 50 to 100% higher than minimum wages. And they establish in every city what the middle class earnings are.
And you achieve them.
And we achieve them. So our goal is middle class earnings and income for our service professionals. That's one. The second is a safety net. Professionals want a safety net, which we offer through a free life, accidental and health insurance cover for every professional on the platform. As long as you've done one order in the last 1 month, you automatically qualify for this free insurance. You also have other benefits like a home loan program, a vehicular loan program, bunch of other loans. So there's a safety net that you have to establish. That's two. Third is training and upskilling. Everybody in life wants a higher station.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've jumped from offline earnings to an online earnings, which is double. But now what next, right? You are an aspirational individual. You want to keep upskilling yourself, training yourself, and improving in your career path. We have a lot of emphasis on training and upskilling. We run more than 250 training centers across the country. We have an in-house team of almost 300 plus full-time trainers. In any given month, we are training and upskilling tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
So that is a very core capability that we have built, which allows the service professional to constantly upskill and move up in their career trajectory on Urban Company and earn more money and multiply their income over a period of time. Eventually, they become a trainer on the platform. So many of our trainers also come from our service fleet itself. That's the third pillar. And the fourth pillar is wealth creation, which, we have launched the first of its kind partner stock option program.
Oh,
so
nice.
Apart from employees, even our partners get stock options in the company. It's a 150 crore evergreen fund that we have set up. In fact, just this month, we have announced more than 500 service professionals who've been granted stocks in the range of 1 to 2 lakhs. So these four pillars come together. It is earnings, safety net, upskilling and career trajectory, and wealth creation. And that's what we've seen just creates a very, very strong, powerful moat in the supply side.
Before you add to this, Abhinav, I have a trick question for you.
Yeah.
I've been wondering to ask you whether we met here or anywhere, right? In the business of platform, where you are helping service providers connect with customers, what happens after that match is made? What if they leapfrog the platform? What if they, what are your learnings there, Abhiraj? And I think it would be quite a lesson for anyone who wants to enable this kind of a thing, right? Anything in particular?
The one-line answer, and we can always talk more, is you have to create enough value for both sides to go through the platform. And so the mindset of the entrepreneur and the management team has to be that I don't want to prevent disintermediation. What you're referring to is disintermediation.
Yes.
I don't want to prevent disintermediation. I have to ask the question as to how can I keep creating more value on both sides to want to go through the platform every time. And that value can be created across convenience, it can be created across quality, through service guarantees. On the supply side, there can be many vectors of creating that value. But the mindset has to be that, hey, if this is a problem, I am not going to prevent it from happening. I am not going to penalize the two sides of the marketplace. I'm actually going to encourage more and more value creation on both sides so that they go through the platform.
That's good to hear. I mean, that's really good to hear. I mean, anything that, again, jumps at you that you can handpick from this journey of scale, from where you watched Urban Company?
Yeah, I think this journey required new learnings. The team really hadn't done most of stuff, they haven't done this before. And this is fairly complicated. You're dealing with lots of individuals, lots of professionals, almost on the customer side, trying to create a standardized service experience, which means like everybody, like thousands of people who deliver the service should deliver the same service, right? So it's a fairly complicated challenge. So setting and doing it almost like across India in various cities. So it required building skills across hiring people. I think we hired in this phase a lot of important people in the team. And that's also realization that what we are good at, what we need to hire for, making sure there is enough value, which we talked about, for the service professionals to be on the platform. And, I kind of resonate with what Abhiraj said, which is making sure that there's enough value for both sides to be on the platform. Actually, when he told me this in 2018, I couldn't understand this. My initial reaction was, hey, we should just stop them from disintermediating. Like, just figure out who is leaving you and just stop them, or penalize them, like this carrot or stick, something like that. And I think maybe like 3-4 years in, now there is better appreciation for me, where it's important for these both sides to realize what UC really means for them in their lives. And I think the philosophy is that, by trying hard to hold them back, you can't really hold them back. So you have to create value, and they have to see the value in the platform to be on the platform long term. If you try hard to stop them, you can stop them for some time, but they're not going to be long-term customers or long-term suppliers on the platform. So I think that philosophy, inculcating that and parsing that and setting it inside the organization and creating products and features and business processes around it are very helpful.
And making it the culture in that sense.
Yes,
right?
correct.
So people don't try and find ways to beat it.
Absolutely.
Oh, that is fascinating to hear. Just final couple of questions. The COVID, I mean, we have discussed this with too many people, but I think in your case, Abhiraj, it must have been quite, not existential, but quite a valley to cross in that sense, right? If you could very quickly pick one or two things that defined Urban Company or redefined, it would be great.
I think the most important thing, which actually when I look back at how we made decisions through COVID, that I'm very proud of, is that we did not panic. So, remained calm through a phase of zero revenue, which is never easy.
Yeah.
And we took the right long-term decisions versus short-term decisions. So, many decisions we took at the time, whether it was monetary grants to our service professionals so they don't leave the cities, lots of investments in safety. For 2 years, we continue to make those investments, picking the entire tab on vaccinating our entire fleet 2 times over. Lots of emphasis on quality training, onboarding supply through lockdowns when there's no visibility of how life will look on the other side. Were weird and contrarian bets in hindsight, but allowed us to truly have V-shaped recoveries. And I would argue in a lot of other offline to online categories, the recoveries were slower and slightly more U and longer in nature. It took a year sometimes to come back to pre-COVID levels. In our case, it was, 3, 4, 5 months in the first wave and a couple of months in the second wave. It was still a challenging period for the company, but one when I think the company and the team really came together well. And I think the steps and the decisions that we took also reflected in the way the brand evolved for the end consumer, which is a big learning for me. One often feels like these things, will they translate to how the consumer thinks of your company? But they did. And we saw many consumers truly trusting the company for the first time in many cases through COVID, a time when they were otherwise not welcoming anybody into their home, and that was very heartening to see. So it was a challenging period, but a shaping period for the company, a shaping period for our value systems, our thinking, and I think it has truly strengthened the company now that we're on the other side of the pandemic. Hopefully, I think it has. I think the strength of the company, the team, our ability to feel like we can weather storms is very strong.
I mean, we talk about wartime CEOs and peacetime CEOs. I mean, and from what he's talking, he always sounded this mature and in terms of his leadership. Perhaps from where you saw this leadership quotient go through valleys and then come on the other side. Are there any one or two things you want to pick here?
During this times, COVID times?
Yes, as a founder CEO, I mean, as traits.
Three things actually. Number one, which is more like my looking into UC as a business. See, we have been a contribution positive business from the get-go, from the start. Like, so very unlike other consumer companies where on every order you lose money, right? So in short, what it means is if your revenue goes to zero, you burn a lot, right? Because you're not making money. So first thing was like, oh, okay. So this is the first time. We have been low burn business until the COVID hit, like always. And as our revenue for I think the month of April and May was almost zero, close to zero. So like, okay, we're burning a lot. Like now, because you were making money on the operations, you're not making money on operations. He was unfazed almost. Like he thought, like, it'll come back. I think the second thing, which is investor we were trying to do at that point in time, is if the burn's going to be high, should we think about how should we think about fixed cost, right? Fixed cost is largely employees. So how do we think about that? And I think the philosophy which Abhiraj and team has always had, and actually I'm picking words from you, is they've been very thoughtful about hiring. So they don't believe in hiring fast and firing fast, ever. So there was always this sense of almost a belief that this too shall pass, and we have our team in place, we have enough money in the bank, so don't worry about it. We will manage with what we have, and we don't need to go that path. We've been very thoughtful in who we have hired. And I think the third is a story which when I was there and met a few folks at office, and maybe just to highlight sort of the care which the team takes of employees. So I was speaking to one of these person, and she said, I had just joined UC at the time of COVID, like just at the cusp of COVID, and COVID meant like there's no physical office, right? Like there's nothing. Right? So everything was moving on Zoom, and so nobody really knew her outside of the recruiting team and so on. And she had like a personal emergency in the family regarding COVID. She said, I had never met these people, but there was a team in UC which set up like almost like a war group with that individual and made sure that that person's dependent, whoever it was, is well taken care of through that phase, right? And this is for a person who is still to join UC right now, right? So it just goes to show sort of in all the madness which was happening, like where the focus is, right? Is making sure like our people are in good shape, we're taking care of them, and almost a sense of peace and calm that this will pass and we'll be all right.
That's good to know. I mean, and it's good to hear a lot of businesses lost empathy and also found empathy during this period. So once who found, I think it would be great to have it scale. It's fascinating. Final question. And then, we are in the launch pad. So in future, this can be a launch pad for a rocket ship. Who knows? I mean, a real one, not a startup rocket ship. So this is a science fiction question. And to both of you, if you were to, Abhiraj, reimagine your business, we are sitting down 100 years, few hundred years down the line, or 10 years down the line.
We won't be sitting down 100 years down the line. Like I'm sure, like I'm not there. Like,
okay.
Somebody else.
Someone else.
Yeah.
How would you reimagine your business? The building blocks of it. Is there something that is timeless, or what are your wildest dreams about running your business? If you have a gaming avatar.
I think it's hard to imagine, 100 years out, because everything can change in 100 years.
10 is good.
But I think one of the things that will come in a meaningful way into the service industry is a lot of technology, a lot of automation, and a lot of artificial intelligence and robotics. A lot of things we do are, actually technology and artificial intelligence and robotics can help service professionals very efficiently. So just as a small example, we're been very early tinkering almost on the side, but there's this small company that we've been working with, which is trying to create a painting robot. So just put the robot on the wall, it just paints the wall, right? So, I don't think these are necessarily at loggerheads with service professionals. I think they only improve. One thing we've realized is tooling, automation, and any kind of technology only improves the efficacy and efficiency of a service professional and leads to higher earnings for them.
So true.
So that's an area that we want to really double click on. We've seen that in beauty. We've seen that in cleaning. We've seen that now in painting as well. Early shoots, green shoots of that. We want to bring a lot more of that in. And so I think 10 years out, who knows? You would probably see your appliance technician wearing some very interesting Google glasses, and then as he is fixing the appliance, there's somebody at the back end who can aid him by seeing what this person is seeing that is broken, right? So a lot is possible through technology if one really applies their mind.
I wish you stay that way, because Star Trek is where we found today's gadgets. Anything to add?
No, I hope what they want in 10 years down the road. We are the platform for delivering all services on a larger scope. Maybe not just in India, maybe outside India. Almost recognized with service delivery, just like many other companies are recognized for what they do. I think that's it. And how we do it, I'll let the CEO run it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think the one job that cannot be automated, at least the founders, and it's fascinating to speak to founders and then listen to the founders' mentality. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. It had everything. Reality and fiction, science fiction. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.